on your camera. Can you sit down?
Okay, it says you're live now, Sean.
Hey, Sean. Can you sit down on your
Yeah,
camera?
I can.
Why you do?
No, because you didn't want that in there.
No, but she said yes.
So you see how you just pinch it.
Oh, that's
so I'm
cool.
like taking
Oh.
out the space at the top.
Hold on. So, alright. So.
Oh no. Wait. Yeah. So
That's
we
really
need to be
cool.
block.
Okay. So that's all right.
That's really cool.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah,
just
so
leave it there.
Leave it right there.
Nice.
You still have a lot of space on this.
Correct.
I don't know why it's not working.
Alright, well try to download Facebook from me on Spotify.
Alright.
I don't see
Yeah, okay.
you need a pen. Zoe,
I have one. By the way,
You're gonna need that pen though. I don't want
Where's
to
it
just
all
in
the
case.
time?
whatever you're a star tonight. Whatever comes to mind.
You're live?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh my God.
Sometimes you have to do like a reset, so like come out of it and go back in it.
Where's
I
the-
got a notice that he was live.
Where's the closest pen?
Baby, pass it, throw a pen for me, please.
You see how much trouble you did?
It'll be alright.
You can put it there.
It'll all be alright.
Okay, now I see.
2 minutes still. You see it now, Dee?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And everybody sign up. So you handling the comments?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I would love to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Love you, Dawn.
Just when I thought she was a troublemaker, she turns around and is the sweetest piece of pie you've ever had in your life. She's adorable.
Thank you.
I've set that on how much battery this thing uses. 70% should be alright for the hour. Sure.
Let's see.
Yeah, I guess you ain't got no choice.
It's okay, there's a
Why am I
yeah,
seeing a black
There's a charger
screen?
in there.
Hmm?
I shouldn't be seeing that.
I don't know.
the
It's
black
there.
screen.
Yeah, what is that?
So I don't feel back on.
Are you?
Oh, now I
there, no,
see you.
it's
See
I
fine.
reset.
Oh,
We
okay.
good, we straight. You have your plug back there in case Sean needs to plug it in the phone, right?
Touch.
Yeah, but it's
Where?
the iPhone.
Oh, you're
Oh,
not.
no, it's alright.
Oh,
No, I'm sure it'll be alright.
Just
I'm sure
toss it,
it'll be fine.
baby. Just toss it from right there.
Welcome, Paula Haas. Nice to have you.
There you
Thanks.
go.
Perfect.
And,
Thank you, Zoe.
I absolutely love that you have your tree up.
no.
The holidays coming in.
Yeah, we decided to put it up early. We'll probably take it down early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When do you take it down, after the new year? Or before? No?
before.
Oh,
I think, I don't know, what's the tradition to leave it up until after?
After you're
So
tired
I
of
leave,
it.
I leave mine up till after the new year.
I
Yeah.
tend to want to clean up and tidy up.
The
and
first week of the
charge
new year is
before-
when you take it down.
Right, like because I kind of
Start
want to
fresh
start the
in
new
the
year fresh, so I tend to take mine down before New Year's.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, it's 8 o'clock. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Caribbean Edge. My name is Shauna Whittingham.
Sean Spalding.
John Wilson.
We're so glad that you're here this evening to join us. We hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. We're hoping to never eat too much.
Gobble gobble.
And Sean, welcome back. You took a trip. You went away.
Yeah, I didn't eat the turkey. I flew the turkey.
Ooh.
I went.
Okay.
So that was fun. I've never been away for Thanksgiving, so it was a good change. Missed the kids, but we're back.
Yes, I'm sure they're glad to have you back.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but okay.
Well,
All
your
right.
pictures look lovely with you and Isabel and John.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
looks like you did a lot of the pub and was it freezing cold?
Yeah. That's why today I was leaving the house and I had on a shirt and Isabel was looking at me like, put on anything else? I'm like, we just came from. I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good.
All right, you ladies and gentlemen, you may notice something different about the set. Keith isn't here. Keith has moved on to other endeavors, and so we're happy for him. We're gonna miss him. We enjoyed working with him, and we wish him all the best.
Definitely.
We actually have a special guest with us tonight, and her name is Steph Stanford. So Steph, she's a spiritual badass. She's spunky, she's cursy, she loves animals, and she loves the ocean. And Stephanie, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm going to try to control the cursey for today. Thank you for having me. I feel excited. Thank you.
We're so glad to have you. So tell us, well, actually, before we get into who you are, we want you to tell us who you are. But I want to kind of talk about how Steph even ended up on the couch, okay? So on a weekly basis, we as the Caribbean Edge team, we come together. It's usually after we air on a Wednesday and talk about what's next. What are we talking about next week? So you guys know sometimes we do current events. Sometimes we talk about politics. I think it's safe to stay away from religion. I don't know if we'll ever do a show on program on religion. But long story short, as each of us ideas spark, we will share in our group chat. And Dawn one day sends a picture in the group chat and she says, who is this beautiful person? Who is this phenomenal woman? We have to get her on the show. And I was like, I know her. And so we asked Steph if she would be willing to join us and to share her story. And she was so gracious and so pleasant about offering to be here. So we are so glad to have you, Steph.
Thank you. What an introduction. I want to keep these people in my bedroom with me. They wake up with me like the king of Zamunda, and you just say these things when I wake up every day. You guys are so wonderful.
So what really caught my eye, as Shauna said, is I saw your picture on Facebook as you were announcing your book release, and you just sparkled in the picture. Your shine, your smile just came through, and it was so inviting. I actually clicked on it to see what you were about, and I was actually motivated. And like Shauna said, put it in. I stole your picture, downloaded it, and said, who knows her? What is she about? And Shauna spoke so highly of you. We had to have you on the show. So we're glad you're here. Welcome.
I feel so special. This is the best ego boost you will ever have. I appreciate this. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So start with, tell us a little bit about who you are and how come you are sitting here today.
I'm sitting here because there's a free meal they've promised me. No, I'm totally kidding. That's not why I'm sitting here.
It's partnership.
You know what?
Really good meal.
Oh, they're already starting on this couch. That's part of the reason I'm here actually is because you all are so fun. I love people who are really are real and genuine and cool, down to earth. I like people that I talk to and in seconds you feel like you've known them a long time. But I guess I'm here because they want me to tell my story. And so I won't tell the entire story right now, but shall I give them kind of the synopsis?
The highlights.
You give
The
us
highlights.
Yes, yes.
I was born, no, not that far. No, here's the start. The story is that I actually had a lot of turmoil in my life around 2008. There were a lot of things that happened in a short sequence. I don't even know if you know all these things, but I had left a corporate job that paid really, really well to go start my own business. Yay!
Good for you.
Right, and then it failed. Boo.
Sorry.
Most do.
Well, it also just happened to be around that time when the economy was crashing, so there were a lot of things that led to that. But the point is that I had this business that failed. I had left this great job. I had blazed up all my own savings. And so I was unemployed and feeling like a big old failure. And then I took a job just to make ends meet. It wasn't anything I wanted to do, just was something I needed to do. And during that time, I got cancer, breast cancer. So it was kind of a lot of things happening at one time. And those feelings of failure really were overwhelming. That was the hardest part. Believe it or not, the things I was telling myself, that was the hardest thing of all to deal with. So the good news, the rainbow in all of this, is that when you're on the absolute bottom, you learn how to come back up. And that's what happened. I started learning things about how to be physically healthy and how to mentally shift what I was thinking about And spiritually, I became a totally different woman. So I decided over time, after learning all these things, why not put it all together in one book? Why keep it all to myself if it can help somebody? And so there were some lessons that I learned, and it led to me becoming a wellness coach.
Yes.
I decided to start teaching other people how to shift their minds, bodies, and souls to reset anything that's going on. So that's how I got on this couch.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Even though your business failed, you had a great corporate job and you quit it because you took a chance on yourself. And so many of us don't do that. We don't know if we're going to fail or succeed, but at least you took the chance. And there were some factors, the economy, like you said, was going down at the time. That could have impacted your success or fail rate, or maybe more research, whatever it was. But kudos to you that you took the chance on yourself, because a lot of us don't do that.
I also like the attitude of, here's where I am. All right, time to shift things, and there's nowhere else to go but up. I have this saying in my life that, what are your choices? What are your options? It's not to keel over and die. It's to figure it out, and be better off for it, no matter what.
I think you have to go forward. You don't really have, well, I guess some people don't though. I guess I didn't think about that until we're speaking right now.
Exactly.
Some people choose not to go forward.
Yeah.
Right.
But people I surround myself typically are folks that do go forward. Yeah, you find a way. And I'm very thankful because I can't take all this credit and say I was some Gandhi genius. It's that I was going through difficult things, and slowly Spirit or God or whatever you call it said, take this one step. Now take another. Now take another.
One day at a time.
Yeah, that's really the way to get out of it.
But your journey seems like it's like a testament to the fact that what seems like catastrophe at the time is really what's gonna end up lifting you up, making you a stronger person.
It's crazy because it's really changed everything about me. I'll tell you, before I had cancer, which was sort of the icing on the cake that said, oh my God, everything's falling apart, you have to change your life. But before that time, you wouldn't believe it, I used to eat fast food maybe 3 times a day.
3 times.
Oh, wow.
A day? Yeah, up to that. Sometimes just once a day, but I drank several Cokes a day. I had a ton of cakes and cookies. That was just the way I ate every day.
They did a documentary about people like you.
Yeah, you know what? That
Super
was not
sad.
that. I was not that.
Super
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Shame. But no, but even that, even being sick taught me, get it together. You have to get your life together and start being serious about what you eat. Not being perfect. Because I'll tell you, I still drink Johnny Walker and coconut on the weekends when I go places.
Yeah.
I still have tacos once a week. I still eat things I want to eat.
Right.
But it changed my life and what I would do moving forward in my diet.
But let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Did you find it liberating? Albeit, I'm sure you would want to go back and live through the tumultuous times that you're experiencing. But was it liberating at some point? Because at that point, how much worse can it get? And it has to get better. So now I just need to build. I mean, there's a liberating effect to that, no?
I love that you're saying that, but let me be really honest, because this show's about helping people, right? So let me be real. The truth of it is, I was just pretending every day that I was okay.
Yeah.
So everybody, my family and friends thought, oh, she's fine, she's pulling herself together. That wasn't the truth. The truth was I was always hiding because I was so used to being a perfectionist and so used to being successful. I have a couple college degrees. You probably all have more college degrees than I have. So my point is, I was used to being a successful girl, and so when I wasn't, I didn't want anybody to really see how much that hurt me. Yeah. So I wasn't really liberated until years later, and I said, wow, I've learned some crap. I wasn't liberated until years later. I was getting little tiny morsels of something that would help me survive, but I didn't realize until years later, looking back, that I had made it, that I had been liberated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So tell us about your darkest moment, because you lost everything you'd invested in financially. You found out that you were, stricken with cancer, and it's breast cancer, correct?
Yes.
And so now you're faced with making medical choices, financial choices. Tell us what exactly at your darkest moment brought you out. What were some of the things? Because I know from friends we've spoken to previously, one thing that was that stood out was their support system around them. And you kind of touched on that, who you surround yourself with, so your support system. So can you tell our guests and us what brought you out of that dark moment?
Ooh, well, I'm glad you asked that question because one, I didn't have one definitive moment. I had a whole lot of impactful moments, I think, over time that made a difference. I'll also say, again, I was hiding from my support system. They thought I was fabulous. They thought I was great. My closest friends, my boyfriend at the time, who's my husband now, they all thought everything was okay. They didn't know, they knew my life was a bit in shambles, but they thought I was digging myself out.
Right.
They didn't know what I was going through personally. So I'll tell you a good story that really makes me feel good, and it was a turning point for me. I was unemployed. I hadn't had cancer yet, but I was in the mix of this chaos. And so I remember a young woman had called me and said there's a job fair, probably my 100th job fair I've been to. You know, you're sending resumes into the dark place. You don't even know if anybody's looking at them after a while, right? But I said, all right, I'm going to go to this job fair. And I remember rushing, putting my hair back in a tight little ponytail because at that time I was still really hiding who I was. That's a whole topic for another show. But I was really trying to be this good corporate girl. So I dressed up in my navy blue clothes, put my hair in a bun, grabbed my resumes, I rushed to the car, and I went and jumped in my car. And I remember starting to feel anxious and scared and sad because even before I got to the job interview, I was feeling I'm not going to be what they want. I'm not going to be enough.
Right.
All that failure talk just kept coming up over and over.
Right.
Loud, so loud. And I could feel myself sitting in the car. And so before I even turned on my car, I stopped for 1 second and I said, God, just please be my co-pilot. And I said, no, God, be my plane. No, I said, God, be my pilot. Be my pilot. And I heard, like I hear I'm talking to you, no, I'm the plane. And I just sat there for a second because I couldn't believe that I'd heard something. I wasn't sure, so I kind of sat there like this, real still.
Right.
And I heard, no, I'm the plane. And at that moment, I just sat there sweating because now I'm inside my car with the windows all closed up and the car's off. But I just started to feel and kind of see and know. I sort of saw myself sitting in a plane, and the plane would take itself and would do everything within its power to get it where it needed to go safely. I didn't really have to do anything but be inside this plane and trust that I was going the right direction where I wanted to go.
Right.
That was a true turning point because that was one of the moments I was kind of aware that God or Spirit or whatever you call it can talk to you. That blew my mind. So that was sort of the start of this new spiritual journey for me. That was one uplifting moment where I said, maybe I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
One
I'm
of
going to be okay.
one of our viewers on YouTube just said that just having that transparency is so liberating, the truth, you know. So that was very moving. It must have felt like a weight off your shoulder, like all you know, because we all have that negative speak, right? And we all have that negative speak, and it's to quiet that, it's to eliminate that. That's a big, because our brains are like the most powerful.
I'm sorry, getting some messages that the audio is a bit low, so we're gonna try and
Project
bring up the
more,
audio.
yeah.
We can talk louder, y'all.
Y'all don't want that.
I'm sure of that.
Thank you for the feedback, guys.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to dial it back
Okay.
a bit. We introduced you. We said a little bit about who you are. This woman is phenomenal. You really do. Yes, you. Yes. You.
And Sandra, agrees with that.
Yes.
Says she is phenomenal.
Yes. Sandy, yes. But I want to dial it back because you mentioned what you were going through in your life, but you also, and I believe that's your second book, but one of the reasons why we're sitting here is because you basically decided to put it all together to see if you could help another person. And for me, out of this episode, if we even just reach one person, if we're able to just help one person, it might be me.
Or me.
It would be a great success. So with that, we just want to mention that Steph has a book out there, and the title of the book is
Soul Shift.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we could kind of just get into some of those highlights that you want to share with us, that kind of, you know, that struck you, that helped you, that changed you.
Well, I can remember this, and I think probably any woman, and probably some guys too can relate to this. I think my personal journey to get healthy started when I began to be kinder to myself. My physical wellness couldn't even kick in until I started being kinder to myself as a human being. And so I'll tell you a little story. When I did have cancer, I didn't tell very many people.
Right.
maybe 3, 4, 5 people. I just didn't feel like I could explain everything that was going on and keep it together. Remember, I was hiding myself, right? So we didn't tell very many people, my boyfriend and I. And I had surgery. I was home for 2, 3 weeks trying to heal. And I knew he was going to go off to work and I'd have to take care of myself. I thought, I'll be fine.
You got this.
I'm tough. I got this. Yeah. So we had a big Rottweiler at the time, 110-pound dog who was inside the house. And I thought to myself, I can just let him in the backyard. That'll be fine. And I halfway through this day when my boyfriend was gone realized he wasn't going to go in the backyard and do what he needed to do. And I'm looking at him pleading, dog, please, please, I can't walk you, dog. Please go in the backyard. He wasn't going to do it.
Right.
So I called my boyfriend and said, is there any chance you can come home just for a minute? And he said, I just can't. He said, but I know our neighbor is home. Our next door neighbor is home, and he has a business. Let me just call him, and he'll come over. We hadn't told the neighbor. I thought, this house is a wreck. There are dirty dishes. There's dog hair. I have sleep in my eyes. I got spit caked on my mouth. I probably smell like medicine. I was a hot mess.
Now you're exposed.
Oh my God, I didn't want anyone to see me looking like that,
Yeah.
especially a man, especially somebody wasn't that close to,
Right.
but I didn't have a choice. So my husband called him, the man came over, and he walked over and just said, Steph, why didn't you tell my wife and I that you were having surgery? He said, we love you. We'd be happy to help. And he took the dog, and they went off for a walk, and I stood there crying. I stood there crying because I realized I was so incredibly loved by people that I didn't even know that well, and that they're so willing to help if I could just get over myself.
Right.
Right.
Like, that was revolutionary for me, to think
Mhm.
I'm not an inconvenience. People want to help. People I don't even know that well want to help, and I think everybody
Absolutely.
can feel better in their souls when you realize that.
Right.
You're not out there by yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Not in it alone.
So that was just one thing that I learned. There were several.
Yeah.
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 You were being so cautious with yourself. You know, Thoreau said that the caution is useless, especially in the application of love. So, you know, so many people are willing to help you, and you were being extra cautious.
But don't you
That's
think
a
asking,
lesson in itself.
I'm sorry, does anybody think asking for help is hard?
I am fiercely independent, and so it is something that I struggle with. If somebody recognizes that there's a need and reaches out, I'll accept it, but it takes a lot for me to come out and ask.
Yeah,
It
I'm
does.
that way too. I'm
Yeah.
recently wounded, and it's so difficult because I still get up and try to help myself versus asking for help. It's that independence. It's not that I don't trust that people will help me, because I know I'm loved.
Of course.
But it's just that independence inside me that is always taking care of me. So it's just difficult to ask.
But the funny thing is, I read a book about trees, believe it or not, and there actually is science to say that trees underneath the earth, not only are they holding hands through the root system,
Mm-hmm.
trees that are planted, not even planted, trees in a forest live longer and thrive more easily because they can hold on to each other underneath. They send nutrients back and forth, they send messages and signals back and forth to each other. My book's not about trees, y'all. But I'm just saying though that I learned that if you have community, you're
Right.
healthier. Yeah,
Right.
and that's what it was about.
Right. So are we still getting comments about
It says hard to hear,
Oh.
volume is low.
still?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, we'll just talk louder.
Yeah, let's project. You know, as you talk about that togetherness, you guys have heard me talk about the blue zones, the people who live the longest, happiest lives, and that's what it's about. It's usually a community. Usually the women have like 3 or 4 really good friends. That way, if something good happens, they celebrate together. If something bad happens, they're there for each other. And these people in unison, they go further than just trying to make it alone. So that's interesting. I
That's
want to
really
be
true.
at trees.
But it's a strange dichotomy though, because you're asking about sharing, but we don't know. We're if you look on it from one perspective, we're actually oversharing now as compared to years before, right? But what are we sharing? We're sharing a facade.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's
So we're really not being genuine with each other. So it gives you this illusion that yes, we have a community. We're I have a lot of friends. I'm actually sharing, but you're not. You know what I mean? So I think it's great that you're actually going out there and speaking with people and putting yourself out there, because it's an extremely vulnerable position that you put yourself in. You know what I mean? Well, I'm sure you know what I mean.
I'm laughing because it's so incredibly true. When you write a book, and some of you might want to write books, or you have the passion for a blog, or maybe it's just you want to create music or art or something, you do feel very nervous about putting it out there.
Yeah.
You really do, because you don't know if people are going to judge it.
Yeah.
But you know what? If it's in your soul and you feel like you're going to help somebody in some way, go for it. You're not promised tomorrow, so go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is that why the sleeveless shirt? Because you wear your heart on the sleeve?
Listen, no, it's because I've been working my muscles, y'all. I've been in the gym. I told you about wellness and health. You kidding me?
And that's another component
It is.
to your book.
It
The
is.
healthy living and the healthy eating. Now, was that a projection from the health, your diminished health due to the cancer, or was just that part of you see that being intrinsic to living the best life that you can live?
This is a great question. So let me say this. I'm not 20. Somebody asked me, by the way, how old I was. I told them if they revealed that, I would walk off the show. That's what happened. What happened there stayed there. But what I will say is, when I was younger, in my 20s, I could just exercise away anything I didn't want on my body. Same thing when I was in my 30s, and I'm not going beyond that. But anyway, right. But whatever the case is, as I mentioned earlier, I really used to eat very, very poorly. And I'll never forget when I went into the surgeon's office, I saw a sign, and it said very simply, green leafy vegetables can decrease your risk of cancer. My mom's a nurse. I think we've all been educated, no, you should eat vegetables. I knew that, but it kind of shook me up and made me start to think differently. But what I want to say about wellness and health and eating well, I don't ever want people to think I'm the girl that's going to be out there drinking nothing but water and I just eat celery all day. That's not who I am.
You don't walk around with a carrot stick and a yoga mat?
That's not going to be me. What's really in this cup? No, I'm just kidding. It's water, but it doesn't have to be. No, but the truth is that I started making small changes, baby steps. And I tell anybody who's trying to change what they want to eat, or perhaps lose some weight or lean out or whatever to get healthier, I don't really believe in dieting. I'm not that girl.
Yeah, if you can't sustain it, I don't see the point.
So I believe in making one small change each week, adding until you no longer have room for the stuff that's not as good for your body.
I like that.
And that's what's worked for me. And actually, I do that for my clients too. Same thing. But I want to go back to one thing that you said, Sean, because Sean was saying, is this part of wellness? Let's get real now. I told this table, this crew, this posse, that I go to Carnival every year. Yeah. And so that requires you to wear a swimsuit and dance in the street.
So I see where this is going, right?
You know, so I'm a little vain. I'm going to be honest. I want to keep it looking tight while I'm out there doing what I do. So, but there's a message here. I think even if you don't go to Carnival, every woman wants to feel sexy at any age. And if you're eating well, and if you're telling yourself positive messages, you'll feel sexy. And by the way, that's going to impact every area of your life. So I'm a big advocate for people embracing the sexy.
I know you said it unapologetically, but
Yes.
you know, you have people out there that they apologize for doing these things because I want to look good. But what's there to apologize for? If it makes you feel good, listen. You read books because it makes you feel good. It gives you more knowledge that you feel better about yourself, feel better about what you know, right? You have different experiences because it makes you feel good. So you eat differently because it makes you feel good. Like you want to look a certain way, unapologetic. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I eat well because I want to feel well, and I want to live a long time, and I want to be healthy in my life that I live.
Yeah.
But I am unapologetic about saying, yeah, I want to feel sexy. And that's not about a size, and that's not about Carnival, by the way. That has nothing to do with that. That's how you feel about yourself.
Right.
And the Carnival wine is a DVD that accompanies the book.
I am teaching none of those lessons. Now, Shauna, I'm going to show us some. Or Sean, I don't know.
I don't know why. I could, man.
Yeah, come out.
Show us a Jamaican version.
We have any comment?
Just that the audio is still very low.
It's still low.
Yeah, we're working on it. I turned your phone up and I put it over there, and I can even hear it from here. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
We're going to speak much louder.
Stephanie, from your travels and your speaking engagements, of which there are many, and if you guys get a chance, you guys should really take in one of Stephanie's speaking engagements. It's really uplifting. But from what you've experienced, what tends to be the one thing that is predominant as far as holding people back? What, male or female, that holds people back? What would you say that is?
Ooh, that is such a good question. I'm going to repeat that because I want to make sure that if there's low audio that you heard that. What's the one thing that's holding people back, men and women? Self-judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Self-judgment.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I've learned that people originally or initially feel like it's my boss, that's the reason I can't do this. It's my kids, that's the reason I can't do this. It's what my mother said, it's the reason I can't do this. It really comes down to, do you feel powerful enough and confident enough to say, screw what they said. Forget what they think. I'm doing this because it makes my soul feel free.
Yeah.
It makes my soul feel free. Listen, that is something I learned from my childhood. That's something I believe in to this day.
You know,
Let your soul be free.
absolutely. You know, I've been going through changes lately a lot, and I think, you know, not just what you tell yourself on a daily basis, whether it be negative speak or positive speak, but what you listen to, what other people have to say is a big deal too. Because you know, people make comments that are so negative. I find that, I don't know if it's a Caribbean thing where we tend to be more negative than positive, but I spend a lot of time blocking that negative talk. Like, I listen to it, I don't necessarily want to cut the person off. They'll say what they have to say, but I would be pretty vocal that I'm not going to subscribe to that. I don't believe that's my faith. I don't believe that it has to be that way. How do you handle, or how do you recommend we handle when our friends or loved ones, sometimes it's family members,
That's so
yeah, like, what do you what do you do in that
Ooh.
instance?
I want to know if she's been talking to my family. That's what I want to know. So I don't know if this was addressed. I don't think I said it. I'm on Caribbean Edge with my American accent because my dad is from Barbados. My mom's African American, but I'm a big advocate, proponent, pal of the Caribbean community. It's where I feel like I fit. So I'm here for that. I'm not going to comment if I think it's only the Caribbean community that is tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just say what we think, no filter, or less filter maybe. So I don't know, you can take that or leave that, it's just kind of my personal experience, right? But how do you handle it when somebody in your family or your friends or somebody you love is saying things you don't want to hear? That is one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with. Somebody I have loved didn't believe in what I do or in this industry as a whole. And so that was tough. But I didn't actually try to change that person or shift that person, and I still loved that person. I just started literally telling myself, their opinion doesn't have to be my truth.
Right.
I actually have to say that to myself and even write it down in a journal sometimes.
Right.
Their opinion doesn't have to be my truth, and so I have to catch it when they are saying things that I have to recognize it's an opinion.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's the truth. And you said it.
Right.
I don't accept that. So I don't necessarily say anything to the person because sometimes you can't change them.
Right.
But I literally say their opinion doesn't have to be my truth.
And
That's
I-
like my
I
empowering
remove
statement
them.
for myself.
Yeah,
Okay.
I find it's easier to remove them from
If
my
possible.
life.
But what
If
if
you
you
can.
what
But
is
sometimes
your
it's immediate family. You're
I
right.
have immediate family and very close friends, long-term friends, that I've removed from my life because their negative space can't survive in my positive lifestyle. So it's easier for me. It doesn't mean I don't love them less or care for them less. It just means that we've grown apart. And friendships and family, because you're my blood, doesn't mean I have to get along with you.
Right.
James Baldwin said during the civil rights struggle, they asked him when the country was in turmoil, and they asked him why are they so angry? Speaking of the white population, why are they so angry? And his response was, they're angry because if they weren't, they'd have to face their pain. And that helps me when I'm dealing with someone who has this rage or this anger towards me, or whether it is overt or whether it's passive. You know that there's some subcutaneous kind of pain that's there. You know, how would you help someone like that? Because if we're honest, because we're talking about they, right?
Yeah,
But they is here too,
Right.
because we all can be guilty of
Right.
that.
that's right. It's
Absolutely.
true.
So what do you say to, from that perspective, dealing with that kind of pain? Not necessarily, not specific as to what the pain is, but how do you get into the meat of it?
So let me make sure I understand the question. Is the question, how do you help someone who is coming to you with that much negativity? Or how do I deal with this pain that's coming towards me? Which is the question?
Well, both, because I'm either that person or it's me that's being angry. How do you deal with that pain that's resident in you, that's making it come out like that?
Well, the hard thing is, I think, if it's the pain coming to me from someone else, if I have tried to say positive things to them to redirect them, if I have tried to express that this has hurt my feelings and this is, not going to be good for us, or maybe we've had a fight about it, whatever, or maybe it's your mother and you can't say anything, because sometimes there are certain elders in your family you can't always push back against, right? It's not respectful. So if that's the case, sometimes you literally, maybe you have to do what Dawn said, you have to just walk away. I don't always walk away from family. I have, if it's really difficult, but the closest relationships, they're still around. Maybe I just give myself a little bit of space.
Or time.
Or time.
Right.
And I've really learned, and this is, I think, is a great business piece of advice as well, I don't share everything with those people.
Right.
So if I know that, say for instance, if my weight is something I always want to comment on, I don't give them an opportunity to talk about that. They start talking about weight, I shift them onto something else. Did I tell you I saw Cheryl yesterday? Guess what she's up to?
Yeah.
I shift them away. Because some people you can't redirect them for different reasons.
Right.
Yeah, you can eliminate them from your life or redirect. Now, the most important thing is how you do with it for yourself, though, right? So I'm always dealing with this negative self-talk inside the head. It still happens now, let me be honest. I've written a book, I've learned some things. I'm not Gandhi. I'm still working on some things myself. I'm a human. I actually like to, if I feel myself getting in a sad mood or a bad mood as a result of that, I actually start saying, what is my truth? I'll be in the car driving and I'm saying, what if that's not my truth, what is my truth? And I start listing all the things I've overcome, all the things I've done well, all the things that I believe to be true spiritually, all the things that other people have said about me that are positive or good. I literally just say those things to myself over and over until I feel better.
Right.
And then I really do. It's my own hype up game. Or the last thing I do is put on fight song. I put in soca, I put a Wu-Tang Clan, whatever. I like the wide variety music, but honestly,
The Woo?
yo,
You
don't
put in
even
the
get on
Woo?
me. Don't even get
Your
on me.
face lights up.
Really?
We're friends
Are we
for life.
partners? Okay.
Friends for life.
All right.
Anybody who's playing the Woo,
Those are my people.
we're good.
On the hip hop side. But on the Caribbean side, a lot of other stuff.
So hi everyone that's saying hi. We love you too, Alicia. A comment from Alicia is, do we acknowledge individual contributions to collective energy? That's her question. I'm not sure who it's directed to.
So read that again.
Do we acknowledge individual contributions
to
to collective energy?
I mean, I think it's a question for you, but just to my 2 cents, Alicia, is that for every action there's a reaction. It's almost like you can picture the domino, and that ripple in the ocean. So whatever we do, I think we create karma, whether good or bad karma. So it would be a hands down definite yes to that question. It would be the simple answer. But I think absolutely what we do, what I say to you, how I interact with you, depending on who you are, it may or may not affect you. Sometimes you think it's not affecting you, and then now how you interact with Sean is impacted as a result of it. So I think we absolutely do affect each other.
We do, and I think for me, a lot of time there's negative energy. I think a lot of times when it comes at us, meaning people are saying negative things about other people, I think you have a right to stand up to them and not hear it, because you will foster it yourself, as well as it's not fair to the person that's not present that it's being said about. So I think we all can live better and collectively if we ignore some of that energy that comes out.
I wanted to ask you about you. Right now, we're sort of in a dilemma where we have this generation. They call it I forget the name of the generation, but it's after 95, where they feel it's not generational wise.
Oh no.
It's
Okay.
not. No, it's not millennials. Millennials is
No.
93. It's
No, I
after
was thinking
95.
why. No.
No, but anyway, whichever generation it is, it's the dilemma that we're facing is they are easily harmed in their minds. They are easily put off. They are easily led to believe that they are in danger because of differing opinions or differing stances on different subjects, making it very difficult to have open discussions, have differing opinions, and it's a dilemma that we're facing right now on campuses.
Okay.
What do you say to those people, to that age group that feels that they're so susceptible to differing opinions? They're so susceptible to someone telling them no, you can't do it. Disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a problem that we're facing. Or we can't have open discussions. I purposely have not used the term politically correct because I think it's overused.
Okay.
You know, but if I had to, it would be along those lines. But uber politically
Sensitive.
correct. Yeah.
Mhm. I think, again, there's two sides to that story. I'm speaking loudly. I hope you all can hear me fine. There's two sides to that story, right? There's the person who is receiving the pain. And so this is the person that feels they're always being judged. They're always being attacked. And they're really hypersensitive, perhaps. And then there's the person that maybe has to approach someone like this and have a conversation with them. And this is hard for them. So let me start with the receiver, right? I'm in the generation of folks who are hypersensitive and they feel everything's an attack. If this is the how they're really feeling, those folks have to have a spiritual foundation because that tells you who you are. I didn't say you need to choose this religion. I didn't say you need to choose that religion. It has nothing to do with that for me.
Right.
You need to have your own spiritual identity, though. So you can say, I identify with nature and I'm as strong as that tree. So that this nature is reminding you all the time who you really are. Or maybe you're Afrocentric, so you say, I am in touch with my ancestors and the motherland in Africa, and this gives me my power and my strength.
So like develop an identity?
But for me, it's always based in spirit, though, of some type. That could be defined in your way. You gotta have a foundation. You will feel less hurt, less vulnerable, less like a reed blowing in the water if you have a foundation. So if your parents didn't give you that, that's okay. You have the internet. You can get out there and find that.
It's so difficult though for young people though, right? Because their roots are so shallow. It's so difficult for them to not be easily swayed or easily moved. You know what I mean? They're due to their age, they tend to feel as though they're so susceptible, or even if they don't feel that, they are susceptible because they're not firmly entrenched as what comes with age.
Well, we're grouping all children into.
Yeah, I mean, speaking on a general level, yeah, that age group, it's more easily swayed. So their identity is not as entrenched.
Because of social media, maybe. Because
Yeah,
of the internet.
yeah. I mean, that does have something to do with it, right? Yeah.
But let me ask you this, going back to your childhood. I know I read that you were an orphan at 16.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you've shown a lot of strength and courage through your personal journey. Can you tell us a little bit about how you grew up being an orphan and, how you transitioned into adult life and to where you are?
Well, it's interesting because I talk a little bit about that in the book, not a whole lot. I had some very unique childhood experiences.
Right.
I did start out, by the way, with two phenomenal parents. So I just got lucky in the lottery in that way. I had an amazing mom and an amazing dad, and they told me great things all the time. They whipped my behind too when I was bad, but they gave me a lot of positivity and encouragement and said you're a leader and you can do anything you want. So
from different worlds, right?
my mom's African American, my dad was from Barbados.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
definitely.
Okay.
And so I got all this positivity from a very young age, but then they both had cancer. So they both died by the time I was 16. My father at 13, my mother at 16.
Oh, wow.
And I'm the oldest.
From cancer.
Excuse me, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a lot of tumultuous things going on in my household as a result of this sickness, right? Anyway, I also wore a back brace for 4 years. This is in the book. Most people don't know this about me. I had scoliosis. My spine was curved. So I wore a brace from here to here from age 10 to 14. And you could
Wow.
see it. It was metal. It was on the underside of my clothing, but you could see it. Everyone could see it. And so, honestly, having that crazy childhood helped me build my own spiritual foundation and connection. My parents introduced me to church. I don't exactly subscribe to what they brought me up with now, but it was a foundation for me. So what I'll say is this, because I think it's important. I feel thankful that I had the foundation laid that stayed with me for a lifetime.
Right.
So if there are parents out there, you better know that's important. Whatever you're giving your kids as a foundation can stick with them for a lifetime, even if you're not there. It's important. But there are a lot of people that didn't get that, so they didn't have the roots. Again, I think that maybe they're at an advantage instead of a disadvantage. If they didn't have the roots, they get to go pick their own.
Right.
They get to go find the
Right.
ones that feel best to their own soul.
Because
You
some
know?
people had the opposite of what you had.
Exactly.
Like you had the foundation.
Right.
I'm the total opposite of
Right.
you, where I didn't have the foundation, but it gave me the strength to find my own foundation,
Right.
and also to change the journey, hopefully for my children as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it leads back to something that you were asking, Sean, which is, not necessarily to gap all generations, because I think every generation has their issues and concerns. But I'm always a firm believer in, no matter what situation you were given or faced with, that you have to find your own strength to overcome it and create your own path, and hopefully make a better path for the next generations.
Mm-hmm.
Your,
That's totally true.
your energy and your aura is just so uplifting. I see you, I don't even have to talk to you, just there's you ooze.
It's not yellow hair.
No, you swanky, you just so. And I was telling my sister today, I was on the drive home, and I was trying to tell her a little bit about you, asking her to watch a show, and one of the ways in which I described you is, I said, do you know what I noticed about Steph? We haven't known each other that long. Our paths have crossed, but we just recently started interacting with each other. And I told her that anytime I interact with you, you know how sometimes some people will tell you something nice just because sometimes it makes them feel good. My interaction with you is that you come from a place of sincerity. Like you seem to search a person, search a soul for, okay, what is it in this person that I like, that I appreciate, and then you express that. So with that said, how do you handle this? It kind of goes back to something Sean was asking earlier, and it's something it's an area in which I personally have a challenge. So when people are either hurt or angry for whatever reason, usually that those are the people who need help.
Right.
You know this. We're
Yeah.
intelligent enough to know that the angry people, the hurt people are, it's coming from, they're hurt.
Yes.
And so when they express this level of anger, I don't know if you encounter this, but how do you turn that around? It's real. It's in the workplace. It's in the, you know this person, it's not you, it's not personal, but I want to develop the skill that when somebody is so hurt and so angry and they decide they're going to, fling that my way, or even maybe just even witness it, how do you accept that or interject or turn it around to something positive?
So I love that you're bringing this up. Let me say a couple things, because I'm no Mama Teresa. I just want it to be known. You heard her say I'm cursing, right? I'm keeping it together for y'all right now. So let me be real. I'm not a perfect girl. Road rage is something I have a little problem with. I admitted that on camera. Hopefully no police officers watching. But road rage is something I have a little challenge with. I'm not riding up on people, following them home. But people make me kind of mad sometimes on the road, kind of a lot. And so I'm maybe that angry person.
Oops.
But I bring it up to say that I've learned for myself to not impact somebody else's energy. If I'm the angry person, sometimes I'm still mad, but I've learned to manage that so it's not impacting other people as much. For example, if somebody makes me mad on the road, I might give somebody the finger, but I do it down here where they can't see because I don't want them to have a bad day. I know that's ridiculous, but it helps me get my anger out, but doesn't impact them. I know that's messy. It's not perfect. I'm still working on me. But to answer your question,
I raised mine through the sunroof, but go ahead.
oh, you do? But I used to. Yo, I used to give mean looks to all that. Yeah, I'm working on me. Hopefully you are too, Sean.
Oh yeah, work in progress.
Right.
Till I die.
I get what Shauna is saying though, because I connect a lot with that, is when you're faced with other people's
Yes.
anger
Yes.
and their attitude, and it's not directed specific, their anger with their lives, their own personal issues, but if it's a boss or a spouse or a close friend that you really care about, or you don't have a choice because you get a paycheck from them,
Yeah.
and you have to tolerate that anger on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, it's so hard to separate that, you have to constantly remind yourself that this is not
Personal,
it's them. They're dealing with their own anger, and that is very difficult in itself.
It is. I'm going to share this. This is not in the book. This is something my grandma taught me. I keep saying I'm going to write a book about this. I haven't gotten to it yet. But this is old school wisdom. This is my grandma. Now, I think my grandma is the most successful person I've ever known when it comes to love. She was phenomenal. Just amazing. She had 3 husbands. She never divorced. She outlived them all, except for the very last one.
All 3 at once? Or
Let me get her on the hot.
That's really lucky.
I want to know about.
She had 3
Wait,
husbands.
what?
Okay.
No.
All
My
right.
grandma had 3 husbands. She outlived them all except for the last. She had 2 wedding proposals after the age of 55 and said, "No, thank you. I don't need it. I've got my life."
Right.
And her very last husband, after she got married, told her that he was a millionaire. Y'all, did you hear that?
Wow.
After they got
Nice.
married, she had no idea. He said, "I'm a millionaire."
Oh.
And she married him when she was 80 and he was 70, and he was a different race.
Wow.
So she's a boss. But anyway, so I learned a lot from her about how you treat people, actually, not just men, but people. And here's one thing that I think is genius that she used to do. If she had a problem with someone, it was sort of a 3-step thing that she would do. The first thing she would do is, if she was angry with someone or someone were angry with her, she would figure out, why do I need this person's help? Because if you're talking to somebody, it might be your mother and you're having dinner with her, or it's your boss and you need them to write an email for you, whatever. You need help from someone to do something. Why do I need this person's help? So let me give you a story so this can make sense. My grandfather, she wanted him to wash the windows of the house. He was a busy man back in the day. He didn't get to it. She said, "Honey, please wash those windows." Next day, he didn't get to it. This went on for 3 or 4 days. She feels herself getting more and more angry. And so she finally blew up and said, "I've been asking you to wash these windows. What is the problem?" So then there was a fight. She stopped. The 3 steps she went through were the following. She said, "Why do I need his help?" "Well, because I'm short. I'm only 5 feet tall. I can't even reach those windows. He's tall." She said, "Why do I need him to do it?" "Because there's no one else here in this house. He's my husband. The rest are children." And her 3rd thing she said was, "Well, why didn't I just go tell him that?" So the following day at dinner, she said, "I don't know if I ever told you this before, but I really appreciate having those windows clean because I'm a black woman and this is special for us to own a house. It's important that they're clean because it makes me feel proud that we were able to do this together." She said, "Secondly, I want you to know I've been asking you to do it because nobody else can help me. You're tall and I'm short." She said, "That's all I wanted you to know." And she walked off and left. What do you think happened?
He washed
He
them
didn't
windows.
know he washed the windows. And not just one time, but for months and months.
Because then he understood why she needed that.
And she praised him. So the point of this is to answer Shauna's question. When I encounter somebody who's difficult, especially if they're very close to me, I take that approach. I try to take a step back from the anger that I feel when they're making me mad. And I say, let me say, why do I need their help? Why do I need them to do it? And then I go talk to them about it in that way. It just helps coming with a positive approach.
Yeah.
People will change in a minute when you come with warm energy. They'll return
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm in love with your grandmother right now.
You'd be husband 4. You'd be husband 4. Too late.
No,
What?
thank you for that, Steph.
That was
Yeah,
an awesome story.
She's amazing. Thank you.
But you seem like a very attuned person. You seem like you're very comfortable in your skin. You seem like you're you're happy wherever you are. You're happy at this moment in your life, and no matter what the circumstances are. So my question to you is, I said, if you're depressed because you're living in the past, if you suffer from anxiety because you're looking too far in the future, your peace is in the present. So how do you maintain that kind of peace? How do you keep from looking too far ahead or
too far back?
Yeah, exactly.
I love you asked that question because I think people misread me actually. They think she has no problem. She's always perfectly happy. She's just this, eating pizza, never gaining weight, and she never goes to work, and she just lives in la la land. And that's really not. I'm not saying you were saying that, but other people perceive me that way. That I just don't have sad moments,
flawed
and down
but
moments,
comfortable.
and
Flawed but comfortable.
flawed but comfortable. Okay, I'll take that. I like that. Y'all heard it right. Flawed but comfortable. I like that. No, but it's interesting what you said because I think happiness, you achieve that by just knowing how to bring yourself back to it. It's not that you're always in this state. It's that you're always going off looking at the past and looking at the future and looking at people that make you mad and bad drivers.
And then appreciating.
And then you do something to bring yourself back to this center place.
Right.
So I have a whole lot of tools, and that's actually the first book I wrote. It was called Happy Ain't That Hard, so it was about being happy. But there are a lot of small little things you can do to be happy every day or to bring yourself back.
So we're running out of time, and your books sound amazing. So we kind of want to, if you would mention when you wrote the first one, the second one, just a little bit, and also let our viewers know where they can get these books if they are interested.
Awesome. Well, the first one's called Happy Ain't That Hard. It's on Amazon. That one's only an ebook. It's on Kindle, but on Amazon. The second one is called Soul Shift, Life-Changing Lessons to Feel Happier, Healthier, and Whole. That's also on Amazon, paperback or Kindle. You can get it. Just look for Steph Stanford.
And look, I don't know about the first book, but on the second book is this beautiful face. She's looking absolutely radiant.
Thank you.
And one of our viewers on YouTube asked if there was a signing in South Florida. And yes, if you come to South Florida,
we'll work it out.
Yeah, we'll work it out. We actually wanted to. We have books coming to us that we purchased because we're so excited to read Steph's book, and we actually wanted her to autograph on the air, but they didn't get here in time. So, but we'll definitely get together again, maybe over dinner, over drinks, or some music. And ask you to autograph our books for us. It was an absolute pleasure having you here today.
I had
awesome.
so much fun.
And I want to say before we wrap up, Tricia said, I'm going to try that 3-step approach, and I'm sure Mel needs that. So yes, Tricia. So thanks for the feedback.
Thanks, Tricia. You get people in trouble.
So as usual, we kind of go around table and talk about, if nothing else, what do you want folks to take out of this episode? So again, I just want to thank you for being here. Your time, time to me is more precious than anything on the planet. You could have chosen to be somewhere else, doing something else, but you chose to be here with us, and that means a great deal to us. This time you can never get back. And yeah, we did promise our dinner. But if I hope, and I'm pretty sure, I'm 100% certain that you've touched at least one person, because I know you've touched me. So in terms of just your energy and even just that 3-step, I just need to remember. So with that said, please do share this episode. Please do check out Steph's book, and I'll pass it on to the rest. However y'all want to wrap up.
Well, I love that you made the time to be here with us. That was your anecdotal experiences were great. There's so much inspiration that can be had from the experiences that you've had. And if anything that anyone takes away from this is that whatever you're dealing with now is not insurmountable, because Steph's journey is testament to that. You can surpass whatever is holding you back, whatever you think is holding you back. So go out, soul shift. Let's shift some souls.
And we apologize for anyone that couldn't hear us, so we'll try to fix the volume. So thank you for bearing with us tonight on that. Stephanie, personally, I just want to thank you. The same face, the same picture, the same light that shined through when I first saw your book announcement is who we met today. Quite inspirational. I think you share such a strong journey from childhood on and still remain such a positive person. And one of the things that we try to do on this show is be the difference to someone else in life. And you're definitely a shining star and a difference and motivational for a lot of people. So thank you for joining us on the Caribbean Edge. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. Any final?
My heart feels overwhelmed for being here. It really does. I have had fun. I have talked trash with these people. Y'all don't know.
You'll never know.
You won't know. But I feel so honestly honored when people allow me to come into something that they've created, because this came from your hearts and your souls. You don't just bring anybody on. This is your baby. So just thanks for trusting me to be a part of it. It's very special.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I do want to say, we know Facebook was a little low, but I think YouTube's volume was fine. So if you didn't get to hear all of what we were saying, check out the episode that's going to be saved out there on our YouTube page, The Caribbean Edge. So once again, thank you for watching another episode of The Caribbean Edge. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow
Hit the like
us.
button, share it.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll see you next week.
And
Peace
thank
out.
you for being the best part of the Caribbean Edge.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
That was awesome. Give some.